Right, so welcome to my channel from wherever you are watching me from. Today I'm coming to talk about risk management. How to, from scratch, build a risk management in your organization, in your company. So as you can see, I have my topic, risk management implementation from scratch. Right, so today I'm just doing basically a presentation of how you're going to implement risk management. In my further training, I'll talk about how we're going to take the template and how we're going to assess with a particular work activity, and we'll do reviews of the process. So today is basically for presentation on how you start risk management from scratch implementation. So I'll go to my first slide, and as you can see, I have risk management framework. So this is the body of the entire risk management. So first, I'm looking at my introduction. This will be the content that from which we're going to develop the risk management. So I have my introduction, I have risk management process. We'll look at risk assessment register. We'll look at the risk matrix, how we're going to score our risk. And the next, we'll look at the likelihood table. We're going to look at the consequence table. We'll look at risk communication. And finally, we're going to look at monitoring and review of the process. So let's go straight to introduction. So with introduction, I define what risk management is. Obviously, it's a process of identifying, analyzing, and controlling risks. The impact of risks to an organization. So basically, this is risk management. The tool that basically most of the time we use to do risk management is a risk assessment. And as you can see, risk assessment is also a term that is used to describe the overall process or method where you, one, identify a hazard, you look at the risks associated with the hazard, and look at all the potential cause of harm. So that's the hazard identification. We also look at the analysis and evaluation. So that is where you look at these two terminologies. You look at analysis is where you look at the impact of the risk. How it's going to impact on the project or carried out, is being carried out. And we look at evaluating of the risks. So that would be like using the risk matrix to come out with the level of risk associated with a particular hazard. And finally, we're going to look at how we're going to determine appropriate ways to eliminate the hazard or control the risks. Right, so let's look at the risk management process. So the risk management process has 1, 2, 3, 4, at least minimum 5 steps. So the first step is to look at the context of the work activity. So in this case, we can have, let's say excavation works. We can have, let's say, loading of petroleum products. We can have any work activity, unloading activity. We can look at parking. We can look at driving. We can, any activity. So that will be the context from which the risk assessment is being done, or the risk management is being done. Then, so this is the risk management process. So we come to establishing the context. We are looking at assessing the risk too. So that's where we do the risk assessment, right? So in assessing risks, largely you have to identify the risk. You have to analyze the risk, like I said earlier. So when you are analyzing the risk, you look at the impact of the risk to the organization. Then you look at risk evaluation. That is where you look at, you consider the likelihood and the consequence, and you come out with a figure that represents the level of risk. And we'll come to risk communication. So after you've done your risk and you've gotten your analysis, you've gotten the figures, you communicate to the right authorities in the organization. You treat the risk, then periodically do your monitoring and reviews to ensure that whatever is supposed to be done has been done. So this is the risk management process. So I will go the next stage, and I have this template. So this is a typical risk register, risk assessment template. And I mean, it can come in various forms. Document that I use for most of my risk assessment, and I have other templates. I have of X in terms of Excel. I have other template I use, but this is a simple one. Mostly I use for my work. So as you can see, we have numbers. So number is basically the numbers. So if you analyze first risks, number 1, number 2. So in process of the work operation, I come my second stage, which is the steps in operation. So what it does is that let's say we are doing loading of a petroleum product, or let's say we are doing repairs to pipeline or dented pipeline, any other activity. So the steps in operation basically state the steps, how you're going to go about the work to the final stage of demobilization. So you start with, let's say, from my head, let's say mobilization to site will be step 1. Let's say surveying of site will be step 2. Maybe step 3 will be cutting of the pipe. Step 4, I mean, step to step in achieving the entire process of the work activity being done. You look at the hazard, like we know, when we say hazard is anything that has the potential to cause a harm. Hazard is anything that can cause us not achieving what we are set up to achieve. So let's say, like I said, this is just a presentation. We'll take this template and we'll take a particular activity and we'll run through how we're going to get risk assessment done. So just understand from this point that it's just a presentation. So when we say hazard, it's anything that can cause a harm. So let's say if we take operation like, let's say we are doing pipeline repair works, and let's say we say our first step is maybe cutting of the line, right? So what is a hazard? Hazard is anything that can cause harm in that direction. So when we are cutting, anything that can cause harm is what is a hazard. So we can have, let's say, the welding machine, however, to be a hazard. Now, what is the unwanted? So now finish with hazard. Now let's go to risk. Risk is also defined as the chances that this hazard will cause a harm and how likely is it going to be, right? So let's say if we say the machine that is used to cut the line is a hazard, what is the risk out of the hazard, right? So, and we know how risk is defined by how hazard can cause harm. So let's say the risk can be let's say machine cutting a hand, or let's say machine coming into contact with the staff to cause injury and body pains and all of that. That becomes the risk out of the hazard we identify. So now you go to your, like you said, risk is managed by likelihood and consequence. So you go to your likelihood and consequence to get your risk rating, all right? Because you get so many risks, and you want management to focus on achieving or solving all the risks. But obviously, when you rate your risks and you get higher numbers, it means some of them management need to take particular attention. Some of them even have to go with stop work and all of that. So you have to rate your risks to know the level of risks associated with the kind of operation. So you do your likelihood and you do your consequence, and you come and get your risks. Let me quickly run down and see how that can be done. So let's say this is the table. All right. So let's say this is the likelihood side. This is the consequence side, right? So let me put my video here. Let me come here. Let me go here, right? Let me go. I'm making my video small. So let's go here. Let me be here. So let's look at. So let's see with a pipe work we use an as example, and coming into contact or cutting somebody's hand becomes the risk. So let's say we are looking at the likelihood. I mean, and don't forget it all goes to. So first, let me look at my template. Let me look at a particular template I gave out. Okay, so this is before controls. These are before controls. So go back and we'll see this. So before controls. So we just say let's say the likelihood, because I mean we assess and say, okay, let's say likelihood is what is very likely, because it has so many denotes. You have almost certain, unlikely, likely, very likely, and almost certain. All of that have meaning, of which we're going to do in our next training. All right, so let's say per our assessment, we say it's unlikely. So this is unlikely here, as you can see on the screen. Unlikely here, let's say unlikely, and when it happens, to what will be the impact? So let's say we pick unlikely, let's say moderate, right? So that becomes 8 here. So 8 becomes our risk scoring, right? So get it here. So that is also done to get here. Now you go to your preventive controls. So what it means, let me go back and make my picture big. Let me make my picture big. So I come here, I do this. It's not working. I do this and I make it big. All right. So let's go to preventive controls. So current preventive controls work on the hazard, right? Once you're able to stop the hazard, you are stopping the risk, because the risk is born out of the hazard. So look at the current preventive controls, all right? So let's say we are saying pipe machine will be a hazard. It can cause injury to persons. We'll do our likelihood, maybe we got 6. This gives us the moderate 8. Presently, what are the controls to prevent this machine from being a hazard? So the controls are, let's say, 1, we can say we ensure that competent people use the machine, we ensure proper maintenance of the equipment, we ensure proper servicing and all of that. Make sure proper inspection is done before and certification is given before work activity begins. This is preventive controls for the hazard. Right, then we still have preventive recovery. What it does is that, let's say the controls doesn't work on the hazard and we have the risk manifest. So we have the personal injury, we have all of those things we said as the risk. Then we look at the recovery. So what the recovery does is that when the hazard manifests to the risk, how can we survey the situation? All right, so the recovery can be, now the risk manifest, what can you do? And this one we're looking at body injury. So we look at one, let's say activate the site emergency procedures, or let's say first aid people will be alerted. There should be provision of first aid kits at the site. There should be provision of eye wash. I mean, all of those recoveries also come here. Now we'll go to the next stage. All right, so now we are going to look at after control. So now it's assumed that we have controls in place for this kind of same hazard and risk we identify. All right, so if you look at the controls you have for the risk, so let's say if we're saying the machine is a hazard, and now we ensure that the machine is serviced properly, we buy from proper dealer, inspections are done, all of those things, we make sure the certification is done. Does the equipment still pose a risk? And what is the risk of the level of it? Maybe you can see because of these measures we put in place, maybe the likelihood will come down. All right. And the consequence to when it happens, it will come down, it will go up. Depends on how you make the analysis into it. And you still come and rate it again. So let's say this time we can say now the likelihood go down to, let's say, almost impossible. All right. So almost impossible. And when it happens, we have the same level of moderate. So it become what? 4. All right. So it means we have our level of risk come down controls. You put in recommended improvement or new controls. So you just check in controls that are not in the already existing controls. Then you write by whom and when. It will be escalated. Like I said, when we do the template, we'll have a place we have maybe quarterly review, monthly review also as part of the template. So that is how the risk register template look like. Let's look at the likelihood table. Like I said, you are going to need this to rate your risk. So it has like this, the 5x5, this is 5x5 matrix. You have 5 levels and these are the descriptions. So let's say when you see 5 says it's almost certain. The definition is that because you are going to make analysis, it has to give you a range that you are going to work within. So when you are choosing almost certain, it means the event will occur or the event occurs daily. And that is where you can get almost certain. When you want to choose very likely, it means the event is expected to occur and the event occur weekly. So these are the definitions to how you are going to rate the risk. Let's look at the consequence side too, because its risk is consequence and likelihood. So before you can rate an risk as catastrophic, these are the qualifications it has to meet. Financial loss, and these are determined by different organizations set up their risk appetite and all of that. All right, so the company decides that financially it has to be greater than 10 million US dollars. Health, it has to be involved, it has to cause permanent disability or fatality. I mean, these are to take any of them when we say it's insignificant, this and this, to rate your risk. All right, so let's look at the threat. So this is the matrix. So this is made up of the likelihood and the consequence. So this is where it come up to. You have your likelihood here, you have your consequence here. So like I said, if you say catastrophe, these are what it has to meet. Major, like I showed earlier. If you want to use almost certain, like I said, it has to be something that happens all the time and all of that. We come to the scoring, the matrix, how it is done. All right, so this is a example of how the risk matrix template look like. So you can have one. This how it look like. We can have this type too. This all helps to risk rate your risk. Right. So look at risk communication. So what is happening is that, I mean, we have to know our top risk rated from top to down. Right. So when we do our risk rating, and it is denoted by colors. So 21 to 25 means high level risk. Right. So company need to pay particular attention to that. So it means that they significantly exceed accepted risk threshold, because these are high level of risk. Determine controls and to require to what evaluate and monitor the effectiveness of control. Right. So management need to. So we come to the next year, which is very high. That is 15 to 19. Second priority. It also exceed company's threshold. Senior management need to pay attention. So obviously, these are how you communicate the risk. If it's low, I mean, by management routine process, we can solve it. So this is the introduction to risk management. And like I said, the next training will be a risk. We take a particular activity and we risk rate it 1-1 to get a risk assessment or a risk document done. Thank you. Nice time.